All right, so breaking news, sorry. Breaking news, trade war between Canada and the United States is escalating on both sides now. So, obviously major breaking news. These tensions between the U.S. and Canada, sort of unprecedented, never seen before tensions between the countries. There's a lot of uncertainty. I have heard reports that there has been a phone call between Trump and several major car manufacturers and auto part manufacturers, including General Motors, that have unfolded today. And there has reportedly been a 30-day pause on auto parts and vehicle tariffs. So, obviously, major breaking news happening with the tariffs and the trade war. So, we will eventually be speaking more about this. But right now, I will find. I'm going to see if we can get a video of Danielle Smith's address to Alberta. Calum Pillars?
Previous infrastructure
Okay,
from the
so
Keystone, from TC Energy on the oil side. I know that they are
I will be now
contemplating.
pulling a press conference from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. So, let's actually go to the Alberta government website. Watch live streams. So this is from the government of Alberta. This press conference is sourced from there. So, this is amazing music. No.
We ready to go, Sam? All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm pleased to be here alongside the Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Services, Mike Ellis, the Minister of Justice, Mickey Amery, the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors, Devin Dreeshen, We also have Justin Wright, MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, and Inspector Ken Howell from the Alberta Sheriffs, who will share information on progress on our border security initiatives. But first, I'd like to address everyone in regard to the current tariff situation. My fellow Albertans, sadly, the United States President Donald Trump has decided to place a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods sold to the United States, with the exception of energy products, which will be tariffed at 10%. These tariffs are unjustified and a clear breach of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or CUSMA, that was signed by President Trump during his first term. This economic attack on our country, combined with Mr. Trump's continued talk of using economic force to facilitate the annexation of our country, has broken trust between our two nations in a profound way. It is a betrayal of a deep and abiding friendship. Albertans have bonds of family and friendship and business with Americans that span well over 100 years of shared history. We have always appreciated and shared the American ideals of entrepreneurship and free markets and civil liberties. Albertans, like so many Americans, also feel a strong sense of identity and are fiercely independent, as our fellow Canadians are well aware. But let there be no mistake. As independent as we are, Albertans are strong and loyal Canadians. Thousands of Albertans have lost their lives fighting alongside our fellow Canadians to secure and protect our freedoms and our country. And we will not cast those freedoms and loyalties aside in response to the threat of economic pressure from a foreign government, even an historically friendly one. Albertans will decide our own destiny, free of coercion from any government. So today I'm announcing the following measures in response to the actions of the U.S. President. First, I've directed my cabinet to alter our procurement practices to ensure the government of Alberta, along with our agencies, school boards, crown corporations, and all Alberta municipalities, purchase all needed goods and services from Alberta companies, from Canadian companies, and from countries with which Canada has a free trade agreement that is being honoured. Second, no further purchases of U.S. alcohol or new VLTs will be permitted through the AGLC until further notice. We'll just have to drink a bit more BC wine and Alberta craft beer and spirits, and that's just fine with us. Third, I'm directing my government to assist our grocers and other retailers with labeling all Canadian products in our stores and ask them to voluntarily purchase their stock from vendors in Alberta, Canada, or countries that we share free trade agreements with that are being honoured. Our government will also augment these efforts with a substantial advertising campaign to assist Albertans to more easily access information about where various products on store shelves are from. I understand as well that there's at least 4 apps that have been created in recent weeks and months that can assist Albertans in doing this. And fourth, my government will enter into free trade and labour mobility agreements with every province that is willing to do so. The goal is to have no exceptions, just free trade and free movement of Canadian workers right across our province. I also want to point out that Canada has a secret weapon in this trade conflict with the United States. A trump card, so to speak. And it is located directly under our feet, and it is called Alberta Energy.
Oil. Yeah.
You see, Alberta happens to have one of the largest deposits of oil and natural gas on the planet. It is significantly larger and far more accessible than the quickly declining oil and gas reserves located in the United States. Whether the U.S. president wishes to admit it or not, the United States not only needs our oil and gas today, they are also going to need it more and more with each passing year once they notice their declining domestic reserves and production are wholly insufficient to keep up with the energy demands of U.S. consumers and industry, let alone having anything left over to export as they do today. We in Alberta would love to increase the amount of oil and gas we send to our southern neighbours to help solve that problem for them. Currently, they buy about $100 billion a year of highly discounted oil from Alberta, which tens of thousands of U.S. workers and refineries then upgrade into $300 billion worth of value to sell around the world. We have made a lot of Americans very wealthy. It's in both of our countries' best interests to double the amount of Canadian crude moving south. It means more Canadian jobs, and even more American jobs. It means lower fuel prices for consumers and more U.S. and Canadian influence all around the world. New pipeline proposals to take more Alberta oil and natural gas to the United States, given the U.S. President's stated goal of U.S. energy dominance. Stated simply, the U.S. cannot be anything approaching energy dominant without Canada supplying a portion of the oil and gas. It is just a fact. The Alberta government wants to facilitate and to partner with U.S. companies and even the U.S. government to achieve their energy goals. We really would. It is the ultimate win-win scenario for both of our countries as well as our citizens. But how can Alberta actively partner to expand pipeline access to the United States when its president just slapped a 10% tariff on our energy products and is devastating the other industries in our province and our country with a 25% tariff, in violation of an agreement that same president signed in his first term in office? And the answer to that is we can't, and we won't. So until our U.S. friends come back to reality, we will focus on efforts and financial means to export one of the largest oil and gas deposits in the world elsewhere. We will look to our own nation's west and east and north coasts. We will partner with industry, provinces, First Nations, and the federal government to build multiple oil and gas pipelines to all of our coasts for the purpose of dramatically increasing Canadian energy sold to Asia and to Europe. And as soon as the U.S. government is prepared to respect our country and to treat us as allies and partners again, we will welcome the opportunity to partner with them to achieve North American energy dominance. Of course, for this strategy to work in Alberta, we will need to see a significant attitude adjustment from many of our fellow Canadian political leaders with respect to the importance of unlocking and exporting Canadian energy around the world. But I'm confident that Canadians want exactly that right now, and that they will elect politicians who share that view regardless of who they may have supported previously. Alberta is counting on it. No nation on earth has more resource wealth per person than Canada. We have the potential to be an energy and economic juggernaut, able to punch well above our weight class in virtually anything, from energy to manufacturing to technology to military defense. As Canadians, if we're going to survive this dispute with our neighbours in the short term and win in the long term, we must commit to this strategy. No more excuses. It's time to start building pipe, developing resources, and constructing new ports on every coast without further delay. And as for existing oil and gas sent to the United States, Alberta does not and will not support cutting off or taxing Canadian companies on existing energy exports to the United States, and that's for two key reasons.
As well, this
First,
is not really what I would
doing so will
consider
hurt
my
Canadians
live
far worse than Americans
This is
should the U.S.
not a live
retaliate
stream
in
career.
kind,
This is not
which
the
they
live
will.
streaming
The
era
United States
of this
retaliation
channel.
would most especially hurt those in Ontario and Quebec, which still rely on importing fuel from the United States, largely due to the cancellation of the Energy East pipeline project. If we had Energy East, then cutting off or taxing Alberta crude without Energy East, cutting off or taxing Alberta crude going south is utterly self-defeating. But also importantly, U.S. polls are showing that the Trump tariffs, especially against Canada, are not at all popular with the American public, certainly not popular with the stock market. And that unpopularity is growing and will continue to grow daily as these self-destructive tariffs drive up the cost of food and fuel and housing and almost everything else for American consumers. Cutting off energy entirely would make Canada the bad guy for Americans, and we don't want that. We want the Americans to blame their struggles on the actual source of their problems, that being the Trump tariffs. So instead, every Canadian leader should be engaging with the American people, their governors, and members of Congress to use their power and their influence to reverse the tariffs. To that end, I'll be traveling to Houston next week to continue that push. After all, the friendship and bonds between the United States and Canada are far deeper and more lasting than any one person or government. And as upset as we are, our quarrel should never be with the American people. They are our friends and family. Now finally, my fellow Albertans, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. The road ahead is very bumpy. If these tariffs continue for months or longer, there will be significant job losses. There will be higher inflation and lost opportunity, and there will be large budget deficits as our government seeks to cushion the blow for Albertans while ensuring that we continue to provide the public services and infrastructure that you and your families rely on. But let me also say that there is not a shred of doubt in my mind that we will prevail. We are a strong and free people. We stick together and we help one another when the going gets tough. We are relentlessly innovative and we find ways to overcome virtually any challenge placed before us. We always find a way, and we will do so again. And oddly enough, this crisis may ultimately result in our province and our country becoming more unified, more prosperous, and more powerful than ever before. Make Alberta and Canada remain forever strong and free. And thank you for that. And now I'd like to turn things over to Minister Mike Ellis for an update on our interdiction patrol teams.
Well, thanks, Premier. Certainly a pleasure to be alongside Premier Daniel Smith, Minister Amory, Minister Dreeshen, MLA Wright, right here in Medicine Hat. I also want to thank Inspector Ken Howdle with the Alberta Sheriffs for joining us here today. After announcing Alberta's swift action to strengthen security along the southern border at the end of last year, I'm pleased to report that we are delivering on that commitment. In the short time since Alberta's government has deployed considerable resources to get boots on the ground as quickly as possible, I'm very proud to announce that today the new Alberta's Sheriff's Interdiction Patrol Team is playing a very key role in our ongoing efforts to stop drugs, gun smuggling, human trafficking, and other illegal border crossing activities. Currently, we have 20 members that have been assigned to the IPT patrol between entry points along Alberta's side of the border, with the remaining 31 to be fully deployed in the coming months. They're already making a very significant difference and an impact on crime that is traveling in both directions. I can assure you that our portion of the border in Canada is secure, as they continue to focus on known hotspots of illegal activity and keeping a watchful eye over anything suspicious. Most of these sheriffs are also trained to conduct commercial vehicle inspections, allowing us to bolster operations at vehicle inspection stations as well as other area highways. Commercial vehicles are commonly used to smuggle these drugs and illegal weapons and, unfortunately, people. Our increased presence at the inspection stations sends a very clear message that cross-border crime will be promptly identified and disrupted. I've said this many times before. Alberta is not and will never be a haven for criminal activity, and the IPT team is helping to ensure this remains so. In short, it's in short time since the IPT was announced, we've made significant progress. The staff secure state-of-the-art equipment, as well as the IPT, which is already making a tangible impact at the border. Hiring for the team remains ongoing. As I've said, we're on track to fill these remaining vacant positions in the coming months. And later this month, we're going to see 14 new members assigned to patrol the border. We also continue to work with the RCMP as well as the Canadian Border Services, again, to secure our border. We'll continue to source and deploy the technology and resources needed to ensure the IPT can operate effectively. And of course, procurement, as the Premier mentioned, is underway for additional tools and equipment, including drones, night vision technology, and patrol dogs. And we'll be focusing on Canadian suppliers, or essentially not American suppliers when it comes to these procurement processes. Our steadfast focus, of course, on getting IPT boots on the ground is already making a difference in our communities and transportation corridors. For example, recent traffic stops conducted by the IPT members have apprehended drug traffickers, individuals wanted outstanding warrants, and have removed several impaired drivers from the road. In one instance, a stop was conducted involving a vehicle without a province registration with an intervention into human trafficking, which is unfortunately occurring at our border a little too often than we would like. Our government has been tackling the fentanyl crisis with a multi-pronged approach. Not only do we have our teams here at the border, but we also have been working with municipalities right across Alberta to align community peace officers and police of jurisdiction to combat social and civil disorder, and also our alert team, which is doing a phenomenal job, funded by Alberta's government, has been combating organized crime, and fentanyl in the province, and we have seen a lot of success with Alert, with the removal of fentanyl super labs, and we have responded to President Trump's concerns regarding fentanyl. Here in Alberta, we are making sure that fentanyl is not an issue. Thanks to the government's $29 million investment in Budget 2025 for IPT, we now have more boots on the ground to detect and intervene with these crimes, and I can proudly say that our border here in Alberta is indeed secure. With the swift action to get these boots immediately on the ground and more soon to come, Albertans are going to make sure that we focus on safety and security, and we'll always be, and this will always be non-negotiable under this government. We're going to continue to do whatever it takes to crack down on illegal activity and that are taking place at our shared border. The work of the public safety is one part to our government's action, and with that, I'd like to invite my good friend, Minister Devin Dreeshen, to the podium to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here this afternoon to share what Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridors is doing our part on our southern border with the United States. We are building 3 new vehicle inspection stations near the border to give our sheriffs dedicated facilities to inspect commercial vehicles, whether they are crossing into the United States or coming into Canada. Now, these stations will be located at Highway 1 at Dunmore in Cypress County, Highway 3 at Burmis in the municipality of Crow's Nest Pass, and Highway 4 near Coots in the county of Warner. And we've dedicated $15 million over the next 2 years in Budget 25 for these improvements. Now, these stations will include enhanced lanes for vehicle inspection and new buildings for year-round inspections. This is an added layer in addition to the existing border stations. And we are also working closely with our highway maintenance contractor to add yet another layer of border security.